I'm Jeff Jones, and welcome to my home. Today is a very interesting day, a very dynamic opportunity for you, the viewer, and we, the listeners, to get to hear and know and meet a gentleman I believe, without question, should be the next 35th District Assembly member, Mr. Kenyatta Stewart Esq. I don't normally, maybe I do, but I don't normally say or present myself in this fashion. But considering all the circumstances surrounding this nation, this city, this state, it is time for all of us to really pay attention to who we have representing us, sitting in those seats of power and change. The days of folks being placed in spots and seats because they are friends of have to be over. The legacy of change starts now. And so as we walk through the conversation, listen, please. Listen very carefully to his responses. Listen, align what he says with you and to you about your experiences. Think back to those days when individuals who claimed they represented you only saw you around election time. Ladies and gentlemen, I would not have this interview in my home if I didn't think it mattered and I didn't think he was important. You're out here in this rain trying to make it do?
Come on now, that's how we do it.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, man.
Welcome. Come on
What's
in.
going on, man? Hey, listen,
All right.
I ain't no stranger to this spot here.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen,
on,
Mr.
man.
Kenyatta Stewart,
Yes,
Esq.
go. Yes, go.
Hey, sis.
Hold on, I'm putting a speaker.
Hey, what's up, sis?
Hey, boo-boo.
What's up, boo?
You got it.
We-
You know we're going to do this.
We're gonna do this, boo.
Hey, look, she said I owe her overtime because she's working so hard. All right, I'll talk to you later, all right? I'll talk to you later, okay?
Who you talking to?
Oh, all right.
Who you talking to?
That's Miss Ames.
Former Councilwoman Vera Ames.
Brother Jeff, I just want to thank you, my brother, for inviting me back into your house. It's been such a long time since I've been here. I usually talk to you on the porch. And it brings me back to when we were in the same exact space. We're talking about June 30th, 2010. The next day was supposed to be the first day of your term. And you gave me the honor to stand here with your family, room full of people, to swear you in as our mayor at that point. And I'm gonna tell you, my brother, I'll never forget that. I'll also tell you that I'll never forget back on 25th Street on the 2-5 days where you taught me how to tie my shoes, brother. And I always tell people that. I would say, Jeff Jones, we have the type of relationship that he was the one who taught me how to tie my shoes. I look forward to the point where, the younger folks like Jarrell, who's a little bit younger than me, right? But then I also think about, the Kemper's kids. I think about, Clayton's kids. I think about Wimberly's kids. I think about Kenny and Shabanda's kids, who I'm gonna be passing the baton to them, right? I think about those kids who are, in their 20s and 30s, who will be looking at me, who got a little gray hair, to pass the baton. I gotta get them ready the way you got me ready. And I'm gonna tell you that the 35th District, as you know, includes, Patterson is the middle of it, but then you have Elmwood Park and Garfield, that's the Bergen side, and then you have Helden, North Helden, and Prospect Park. And then, of course, like I said, it's Patterson. And I look forward to, after June 10th, we'll be one step closer to representing that full-fledged district. I look forward to going to Trenton and showing these folks that Patterson has a different breed of talent. I'm a Democrat through and through, but I'm a different type of Democrat. And I will say that the different Democrats are what's going to save the party. Because no disrespect to the old timers, no disrespect to the traditional Democrats, but nowadays we got to do something different to get the young generation involved. And I like to think that this experience that I'm going through right now is actually to our benefit, because I have to earn the job. I have to earn the seat. It wasn't given to me. And we're not going to fight about who it was given to. We're just going to appreciate the fact that once we earn it, and when I say we, once we as a community earn the nomination, and then after that, once we officially win in November, then when I go to Trenton, we all go to Trenton, right? And it's going to be a different experience. And like I said, for that next generation, I'm going to force them to come with me, because you forced me to come with you. The Anthony Davises and like I said, the Shavonda Sumters, the Nelly Poes. They forced me to come with y'all, right? You all invited me into different spaces that I probably wasn't ready for, but you prepared me for them. And before you know it, now you have me looking back to say, hey, listen, come on, let's go, y'all. Let's go. And there's guys like me and TJ Best and Kenny Simmons and, Rodney, guys like us, we had an opportunity to be in the back room. And now we are starting to spread our wings a little bit. And before you know it, we will be, the folks who are getting the next generation ready. So that's in June 10th. Yes, get excited. Yes, take pride in our opportunity to vote, but not just for an assembly candidate, but for your son of this community. Like when you look at me, you should look at your son, and especially your son who had a little bit of problems. Your son who a little hard-headed, your daughter who talked back, the person who you even had to call Kenyatta and say, hey, listen, I need help with my child. That's who you're voting for. And there's so many kids in this community that are excited about this election that some of them say, I don't even know what a certain person does, so I have to explain it to them. But the best part about it is that they're excited, and I can't wait until they show off their ability to vote and they show off their ability to elect somebody who they can appreciate.
Good evening. We're here today again to have some discussion, some dialogue with someone I have the highest regard and a whole lot of admiration for, someone who's decided to venture out and to represent. And we can take the word represent in so many contexts, but let's look at the one that matters. And that is somebody whose position, influence, experience, and knowledge could determine whether or not our lives as we live it now until our end of days are prosperous or painful. And so when we look at legislators, when we look at people who represent us, I think we have to move past that point where we're just having people there because somebody told us they were the one.
That's deep, yeah.
We're talking about folks who know what they're doing, understand the context, and represent us with the greatest degree of dignity. So if you didn't know in the intro, I need you to welcome and say hello to Mr. Kenyatta Stewart Esq.
Let's go. No question, man. Thank you for having me, brother.
Absolutely.
I definitely appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. So I was telling folks before you got here, and it will show up in later parts of the conversation, that we stood right there in front of that fireplace.
That's right.
The evening before, you swore me in as mayor.
That's right.
And we had the packed house upstairs and downstairs. And at the time, you were just out of, I think, law school.
Yeah, I was young, man.
Yeah, but you weren't young. You were worldly.
In age.
Right, okay, we can go with that.
That's right.
And so he stood there and he made sure that my mom was here, my sisters, brothers, cousins, friends of the family, just a bunch of folks.
That's right.
Because it was one of those rare occasions, and I'm earmarking some specifics as we get into the conversation. It had probably been the first time in my mother's life, who migrated from the South to the North, that she sat here, watched youth and her child make history.
That's right.
And she was a part of it.
That's right.
And so this interview is about continuing that history with you. That we have the chance, you have the chance, that on June 10th, it is not just an exercise, that is an intention.
It's passing the baton. That's a prime example of like your mom is here, we're getting ready for you to take the step the next day, or as soon as you touch the Bible and we finish it, I'm here helping you go through that process. And now I'm taking the baton from the folks like you, bringing it to the finish line, and now I have to get the younger folks ready. So you got to prepare them for the next lap.
I hope you understood that, because that's important.
Yeah.
And I know you did.
Yeah.
Y'all figure stuff out quickly.
That's right.
So I'm not here to do fluff. We don't do fluff. By the way, we also participated, joined, and accepted a unique responsibility called Alphadom. We are both brothers of a fraternity. And I say that to say that our beliefs in terms of community and mankind run deep. We share those values. I'm a criminal justice major. He's an attorney. So our paths are very close in terms of understanding that you can't move forward unless you understand the dynamics, the challenges. You got to understand, and then you got to be able to be prepared to accommodate those things. So we're going to start with why. Why not? Why?
Sure.
You're a prominent attorney.
Right.
You understand what's going on.
Right.
And you know politics may not be the best place to get it.
It's true.
Why?
It's true. So being in the back, right, in the background, literally in the background.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I remember it's funny. After election day, I remember at one point we were at Jacksonville.
Right.
And it's literally me, you, Benji, Kim McDaniel,
Right.
Kim Morris.
That's right.
And we're upstairs in the glass room.
I remember that.
And, they were asking, well, what's next? What if they challenge or what have you? And I'm, breaking down, that information. I wish I found that picture of me like talking to at that point, the OGs, right? The OGs.
I think I have some of those pictures.
If you have it, I love it. So,
I think I got them somewhere.
So playing the background and helping out, here and in Newark, it prepares you for the next chapter.
Okay.
And I'll also tell you that, being in courtrooms, making arguments, and being left in a space where a judge says, leave it to the legislator.
Got it.
That's a good argument, but that's not the law right now.
Got it.
Judge De La Carrera said it to me a number of times about drug court.
Okay.
Where it was like, no. That makes sense.
Right.
But that's not the law right now.
Touche. So the why is why not. And if we presume that in time, perhaps things may get rectified, then we're sleeping.
That's a fact.
So in order to adjust our TVs, our radios, our mindsets, preparation began yesterday. And what steps did we take to move those agendas? So in the question of the why, there's also the question then of the when. So wanting to see and being in the part of the back room conversations,
Sure.
That's one set of things. Do you remember when it was crystal clear, or was it crystal clear? Was it a bright light? Was it a knock, a bump in the dark that said?
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you, I was in denial.
Okay.
Because
Politics is familiar that way. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what usually happens to me is, folks run things past me. I got this idea, there's a piece of legislation, and I'm able to put my 2 or 3 cents in. And that's on the local level, right? And that's also on the statewide, right? So speaking to the different people who play a part in different legislation delegations, they'll call me and say, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking.
Right.
And I'll be able to add and I use my 2 cents. I remember one day I was at a meeting and somebody texted me and said, listen, this is like before November's election last year. Somebody said, we're working on some federal legislation that we want to present to, at that point, the then vice president. And I said, all right, give me a few minutes. And the people at the table didn't even know what I was doing. I just went into mode, right? And I started putting it together, and I sent them back over, a laundry list of things. I sent it to some of the people here over in, of course, in the Passaic County delegation and the Esq delegation. And they was like, when did you come up with this? I came up with this because this is stuff that's been on my mind. I recognize that the laws that play a part, right? Like, we got to fix a few things. And then I also tell you that the plan was to just continue on to do what I thought was, my pathway. Become a lawyer, do well in court, become a lawyer, represent, businesses and municipalities and things of that nature. Then you realize that you're just helping individuals.
Correct.
And the law helps you help the whole community. So I never forget, one of my guys, rested.
Hold on a second. So there's a point there. There's a subtext to that.
Right.
And when we often think about, or if we've never thought about it, haven't we had enough of folks representing individuals? I mean, that's why we're in the state we're in. Folks will if I have a relationship with this person or whatever, they're going to be served. But the rest of us, it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
That's why we're here today. I'm sorry.
So, rest in peace, Brian Patterson, right? We call him Big B, the Incredible Hulk, right?
I know.
Big, 6'2",
Yeah.
275 walking around at any point. His son just graduated from college.
Right.
I was on North Main with him the other day. They were celebrating his graduation. His mom works in the courthouse, and we just super excited for him about his future. But I remember talking to him about drug court.
Right.
And that's when they changed the rule that says if you complete drug court, you can get a full expungement.
Gotcha.
Now, he said to me, he said, wait a minute, okay? I've been out of trouble for X amount of years. They can't give me a complete expungement? And I said, no, you got to complete drug court to get that.
Right.
He said, so you mean to tell me that I got to get in trouble one more time to get the expungement that I'm looking for? I had to rub my head and say, B,
Yeah.
that don't make sense. But that's what's going on. He said, but what about the guy who has been out of trouble for 30 years, but he or she has, 3 prior convictions, can't get the expungement they're looking for? The person who has been in trouble for the entire 30 years, so 30 convictions, goes to jail one more time, completes drug court, and then now gets the expungement. So again, things like that start to touch me and say, no. Sometimes the law, it was a good idea. Thank God for the folks who were able to get the expungement through drug court. But it's like, we gotta think this thing through. Then the marijuana piece came. Me and Mayor Baraka.
Don't even get me started about, but I got you. Go ahead.
Pulling hairs about the marijuana piece, right? And they're like, well, you can get an expungement after a certain time, and this and this and that. Wait a minute. Many times people can get money off of this, but we can't get what we need on our side. So again, like those are the small pieces that played a part, and it helped me understand it's pushing you one step closer.
Got it.
One step closer.
Got it. So, I'm definitely sitting here both as a fan to the conversation, but also someone who clearly understands that it's beyond double jeopardy. It is that condition, from what I'm hearing, it says that in order for you to get on the right foot, you got to break another foot.
Come on now.
And if you got to keep breaking a foot, how you walking?
Right.
So now, for those who want to hear a more sophisticated, refined discussion, we can have that. We can have that. You already heard him and the depths of his understanding of systems, but more importantly, how he understands the challenges that average folks, you may one day be in that scenario. Your family members may one day be in that scenario.
No question.
The folks, unfortunately, that we may have, they're still saying ain't broke, don't fix it. And if we're going to stay with ain't broke, don't fix it, it won't be fixed. But there's what you said and how you said it. So I think you've also answered the question of, are you prepared for what the General Assembly responsibilities are? Now, I'm saying that. Are you prepared?
That's right.
Because as a student of politics and an instructor of politics or political science, I can say that the folks who announce that they also want that seat are not qualified. I can say that. You can't say it, don't say it. I can say that.
He said it twice too.
Yeah, and I'm saying it because, and it's very easy.
Sure.
If I take my car to a mechanic and I tell him I have a problem with X and I go pick up the car and he charges me and the problem is still there, you're not qualified.
Sure, I get it.
If we've had folks who sit in respective seats and they've been sitting there 4, 5, 6 terms and our problems remain the same, they're not qualified.
I get it.
So an individual who says, I want to be whatever, okay.
Right.
Everybody has that right constitutionally and in your heart.
That's right.
But I'm looking for the qualification.
Right.
Right? I'm looking for the qualification. You understand the law? Do you write the law? Do you participate in the law? I mean, what have you done? Have you served in elected capacity? Okay, good. You did that. At what level? And then I start going, wait a minute. When did you decide that you wanted to go not just local, but you want to go to the state level?
Right.
What work did you do there to do that?
Sure,
You said with the vice president There was conversation and dialogue. You said working with the mayor on the marijuana bill about the state. I mean, those are two different discussions that we have.
No question.
Yeah, but folks are like, yo, I think I'm ready.
It's my turn.
Yeah, ready for what? So I say that, and I say this. Okay, you and family have said, you know what? Let's do this.
Right.
People in the community are saying, let's do this.
That's right.
Other folks are like, who is this? What do we tell them? How do we convince them? What do we show them that the package that's sitting here right now
That's right.
is the right package? What do we tell them?
Yeah, so it's easy for me to say this. I am exactly who you want your child to be.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I am that person.
Tall, good looking,
Well, you know,
and beyond that. You say
right.
beyond that. Okay.
So, you know, and on as humble as possible, I am the person who the parents said, listen, we work hard. My parents work, you know, Jeff, usually across the street from me. My parents worked.
Or vice versa.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, my parents worked hard to put me through school.
Right.
My dad worked at Globe. My mom worked at North Jersey Developmental Center.
So you regular.
No, come on now.
You regular. You ain't silver spoon.
No.
Okay.
come on now.
I just thought people assumed that. Go ahead.
So, and then your parents tell you to do what? Go get an education, keep your nose clean, stay out of trouble. And even when I got in trouble, I was able to still fix through it.
But we ain't talking trouble. We talking about growing up stuff.
Yeah, of course.
That's all we talking about then.
But then what happens is, you know, you get to get an education, and they say, well, go find a job. Well, my first job was working as a law clerk with Judge Womack.
Nice.
So at that point, they say, okay, well, that's the first job, right? It's, you know, in courthouse, you're doing the thing. Then after that, they say, well, go find a better job.
Right.
So then go work for a law firm,
Nice.
right? Create my own clientele. Then the question becomes, well, what's your give back? So then I start serving the community in the capacity and the space where I'm representing people. But then I say, you know what, you can't walk around here as a lawyer. You have to walk around here as an advocate.
Got it.
So of course, you know, man, we doing basketball tournaments, we doing big book bag giveaways. Like we did exactly like the elders said.
Well,
do
you've
this.
been. I just got to say this.
Right.
I've watched you both close and afar, and you've been doing this, which typically is not what attorneys do. Just
Facts.
let's be clear. That is not what attorneys do. That is not what business people do. That ain't not what elected officials have done. So I'm not putting a halo on your head, but I'm just saying you did it because you saw the need. You did it because it was as convincing and overwhelming as not doing it. So while I'm hearing you, and I don't want the public to assume that this is something else. He truly did stand out there and do basketball tournaments. And folks looked at him with surprise, and the conversations as people watched, because I used to go down there and watch the games and stuff. And I mean, he was bulking up in whatever case it is.
Yeah, showing out a little bit.
And folks were saying, he a lawyer? That's what they were saying. They were like, he a lawyer? Because we weren't used to, as a community, having folks of that level, that talent, doing that work.
Right.
We just being there, trying to make a difference. We didn't have that. And then it changed the paradigm.
Sure.
It did. I mean, there were other organizational
Thank
persons
God. Thank
doing
God.
stuff, but because they saw that he put up, folks were there, calling upon him. I happen to know, folks would ask me, you have his number, stuff like that. Like, I can't just give you his number, whatever. So don't want to keep interrupting you, but I think it's important. While you can't say all things, I can echo and underscore the things I know. I could also say some things I was disappointed in. I don't have a list yet, but when I think of some, I'll be honest and tell folks what it is. So let's continue with your preparation. And life has done all that. You had some insights as to real challenges from the legal profession.
That's right.
You are now corporation counsel in the city of Newark, the largest city in the state of New Jersey, with all of its complexities. And then surely you had to represent the city with and for or to the state to make sure it. I'm just saying, let's let folks know you have the experience of what it takes to go down to Trenton and sit and talk and become victorious for the city.
Yeah. So I'm telling you. So it's on different levels. So there's times where, of course, we go and testify.
Okay.
Because there's an issue. Right.
Okay.
We also, through the mayor's leadership, we also have the Essex delegation where he meets with, the members that the Senate and of course the Assembly people who represent Newark or Essex County, and we sit down and talk about things that are on its way and things that we think we should prepare for, right? So,
Okay.
Ron Rice, for example. Ron Rice, it's no secret, Ron Rice was not at all, he was completely against the marijuana bill. But we was able to have dialogue before it hit. We had a clear understanding that what the pathway was, and he understood that we understood what we were
Right.
saying.
I got you.
Right? And even though we were on different sides on it, he always would say, we together, even though we disagree about this.
So can we take a moment and look at this, not the depth of the marijuana bill,
Sure.
but let's talk about, if we can for a second, why people are on different sides of the issue.
Sure. Sure.
And the reason I'm going here, because some of the next series of discussion, I hope, is you've been on the campaign trail now. You were actually on the campaign trail before you said, I want to do it. And so you're on it, and I guess you're hearing some things from folks, expectations, lack of understanding, whatever the
That's
case
right.
is.
That's right.
And so one of the things, and I'll be the first to say, with the needle bill back in the day when I served on the city council, I had problems with it.
That's right.
Because my personal conflict was, we're going to do needle exchange, we're going to give needles?
Right.
All right, that was my thing. And I'm having a hard time with DPW, Public Works, collecting needles in public parks. Right. And I'm supposed to sit here and okay this? That's true. And so, folks would try to
balance. That's that balance.
And that's the balance. Okay, I got you.
On one end, for marijuana, for example, on one end you have people saying it's a drug.
Right.
I don't want my kids to be addicted. I don't want kids to get a hold of the gummies or the all that stuff. On the other end, you have folks saying, well, listen, it's better than pills and things of that nature.
Okay.
Fentanyl
and all that stuff. Right. I got you.
Addictive drugs. Then on the other end, you also have folks say, listen, I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I can handle mine. It's like alcohol, right? I'm an adult.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to drink and drive. I'm not going to smoke and drive. Now, the funny part about it is this, Jeff. You can appreciate this. People think because Kenyatta represented, and yes, fill in the blank, that I support that.
Well, that's this is where we want to be, because the assumption is that if an attorney represents somebody,
right.
they therefore support the position.
Right.
And you just clarified, doesn't mean that.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so help us understand what that means.
Sure. So that's a foolish concept, right?
Okay.
It's the equivalent of saying, okay, you know what? A client comes in and they're charged with, I don't know, possession of drugs.
Okay.
And I represent the person, and even if I get the person off,
Okay.
there are some people who, if they want to cast stone, they'll say, oh, you support drug dealers. No, I support people.
Right.
Right?
Constitutional rights and all that.
100%. You took the words out of my mouth, right? Like, I support to make sure that the Constitution is followed, and also realize and recognize that I may have represented a load of drug dealers,
Right.
some of which wrongfully accused, some of not. But I've never used a drug in my life.
Okay, so let's rewind this just one step back, because something in the context of this is this. There are too many assumptions being made.
Of course,
and the assumptions are that the folks that have been selected and serve in those capacities know what they're doing. So let's dismiss that assumption.
Right.
The other assumption is, and I haven't heard anybody say because you're an attorney and you represent folks, you shouldn't, but I'm sure people are thinking it.
Oh, man.
So let's talk about, let's laser focus in on a couple of things as it relates to the capacity as an assembly person. Because here's what I do know. I know of the other candidates running, none of them have been this close to anything legislatively or otherwise.
Okay.
And so that in itself makes this a very interesting and intriguing sort of scenario. Why then are they even on the ballot, first and foremost? That's not your answer, but that's a question we have to ask. Why would people who are already starting out insufficiently in terms of their ability to represent us in matters such as this, statewide legislation. Why and how did they get past step 1 and step 2 to get on the ballot? Or is the ballot that simple that who you know gets you somewhere? I see folks with comments. I see them. I can't right now, but I just want you to know we're trying to get to where I believe we're trying to get to. And so let's finish this thought out and then get to the campaign conversation.
Sure.
So, as an attorney, but I guess that's a real question.
No, but wait a minute. You asked me a question.
Okay.
I don't even think I got to it. You said qualified.
Right.
So, like in my mind, right? And this, right, you need 3 main, things to be an effective assembly person.
Okay, let's go with that.
Use effective.
Okay, I like effective.
First and foremost, you have to have a community tie, right? You have to be like.
You just can't be here. You got to live here.
Well, the key to it is living here is one thing. Caring about here is a real thing, because people gonna call you and you can't say, I'm gonna get back to you, and I get back to them, right? And
they do.
Well,
and that's the problem.
Listen, the harsh reality is that no one's perfect, but you have to also understand that people want answers. They want support.
So I'm striking that because if on one hand, folks, as stated, can denigrate you or somebody, an attorney, for representing some folks because of the test, but can turn around and give people passes for. And so as a community, we got to get better than that. We can't keep saying, "Yo, I'm gonna let you have a pass because I call you and you don't respond." I call you, you don't respond because you're too busy, but I voted for you, and therefore that trumps your busyness. So I'm just saying, on one hand, we can't, and that's. Folks, that's us. That's us allowing the same old condition to exist, but we expect change. Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead. The second thing.
And then the second part is you have to at least understand legislation.
Yeah, I would hope so. The car analogy was my simplest, but okay, go ahead.
You got folks who gonna have to pick up a piece of paper and say, all right, this is what the law says now, and this is what we're trying to amend it or add to it. And if you don't understand it, you're going to struggle.
Well, you do realize, and let's be honest, that some folks get interpreters. They'll ask somebody what it means.
Right. And I
don't know how effective that is, but I'm going to ask somebody because I don't know the word.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Right. So, the key to that is, though, they're going to give you their understanding.
And that was my point.
And prayerfully, they understand it, because if they don't, now we 0 for 2. What they say, it's like the blind leading the blind, right? So, I do recognize and appreciate that, my ties to this community is so deep.
Got it.
My understanding and appreciation of the law is clear.
Got it.
You don't get to this place.
I can say a judge I know personally gave you the highest compliment not long ago, said that you, and I was like, yo, it's okay. And he wasn't trying to tell me that. He was just saying, no, I find him to be, I was like, okay, he also spoke at my class to see law. So I kind of knew he was not saying that for any other purpose.
Okay.
Go ahead. I know I'm interrupting, but I know you won't let me get away with not asking him what you want me to ask.
That's
so
cool.
That's why we're doing it.
And then the other thing is, you have to sit down and appreciate that there's going to be a budget. And, prayerfully you make it to, to one of the committees that plays a part, but you still gonna have to look at the budget and find a way to understand what is out there as far as the needs of the community, and then also find a way to fight for it, to bring it back.
And in that same statement you just rendered, here's a new reality that elected officials now have to deal with. There's no more party line as we know it.
Facts.
The fact that there's no party line gives, whether folks understand it or can appreciate it, the independence to vote their conscience and for their constituents. At least on paper and theoretically, that's what it appears. However,
you remember the past you talked about earlier? So psychologically, right? Like when you get somewhere and you have a chance to push this and you can continue to go down the line. You might not finish the line,
Right.
but it's more than likely that you're going to go on that straight path than going like up and down, round and round,
Right.
etc. Now, as you're saying now, you know, the new ballot, it's like, you know, in this situation, it's governor, all the governor candidates, senator, all the senator candidates, assembly, all the assembly candidates, etc. The days of being next to somebody,
So you actually have to, a person, we actually have to know who we want. And that's what this is about.
That's what this is
and
all about.
why we want them,
That's
that
right.
we would seek them out. I don't care if there's 1,000 names. If you wanted chicken a certain way,
Right.
you ain't accepting that kind of chicken, that kind of chicken.
That's
You're
right.
going to go get that chicken.
That's right.
I'm not calling them chicken.
That's right.
But I'm just saying,
You ain't
if your
going for
preferred
chicken.
choice
Right.
is somebody who brings depth, knowledge, experience, community engagement, then why would you settle for somebody who's hamburger? I just don't get it. And I know y'all ain't doing it. I know you're not going to do it. But we got to talk to our other folks. Now, there are 5,000 of you, all right, connected to me, and I
Right.
connected to you. There are 5,000.
That's right.
That means that's 10,000. We just talk to one more person. And if we talk to 5 people, that's 25,000 people that we can experience with and share.
That's
I want you to share. I mean, I don't normally tell you to share or ask you to share, but I'm going to say, when we finish, I want you to share this.
but see, the key to it is, and what I said about the community, the people of this community raised me,
Got it.
right? So the qualifications play a part, but the key to it is the community aspect of it. Like, and when I say the people, I got a call this morning from, Brother Troy, one of the OGs, right? And,
Right.
they call themselves the OGs of Patterson. It's a group of, older fellas who
Right.
have pride in the fact that they've made it this far. And they say, oh, no, we behind you 100%, brother. We behind you 100%. The folks at the fire department, the same thing, right? Now, that's two different worlds.
Right.
But a part of the common thread is they both said, listen, we watched you grow up.
Right.
They watched me come through Kennedy. They watched me play sports.
And we're not going to hold the Kennedy grow up part. Because we ghosts understand, but no.
Yeah. But, and those folks, they know the path that I had to take, right? Their kids were around with me. Their grandkids, I had kids, my son is 9 now, my daughter's 6. Their grandkids play with my kids now. So
Got it.
it's a full-fledged understanding of what the expectations are. I'm not somebody, you're not introducing me to most people.
Right.
And there's some people who say, wait a minute, who's this guy? And then prayerfully I can get to know you and, we turn it into a good relationship. But the community literally raised me through the process of where I am now.
So I'm gonna toss something out here, and I because when he says certain things or says things that I think are more than relevant, but I also need to add a little something to it. The unfortunate thing is that we will have raised him like you raised me. Patterson raised me. There's no doubt about it. From all that happened, I didn't become councilman at large, and mayor because I was just something.
Right.
Y'all knew me.
No
and
question.
You knew my people. But there's a condition we tend to suffer as a community. We tend to suffer from that maybe condition.
Explain that. What's the maybe condition?
So the maybe condition is, well, he didn't come see me. Okay, fair enough. He may not got to your address.
Right, that's facts.
But somebody in your family told you, I like him, I've seen him, I heard him,
That's right.
I heard about it. We have that other maybe condition. Well, everybody who I've ever voted for never did anything for me. We know that's an excuse. It's a legit excuse,
Right.
but if they didn't know you had a problem, can we hold them accountable? And he already told you he has no problem understanding the importance of getting back to people. Hence, he keeps using the term community. And then the other one, one of my pet peeves when we talk about the maybe syndrome. There can't be a maybe if we talk about waking up tomorrow and the day after. We either commit that we're going to wake up and do some things. You heard him talk about his children, 9 and 6. You heard him talk about folks, OGs. Call them what you want, senior citizens.
That's
They
right.
don't want to be
That's
called
right.
that. Fine,
Right,
I'm one of them
right,
too.
Right.
But let's be clear. Let's be real clear. You can take a look back at all those folks historically of this community and others, and you can take a look at the changes that they've made or didn't make on our watch. And then you do a little subtraction and you say, and of all those years and all those times, these things still remain a problem. Then we've got to ask, why did we leave them in those spots? Also, why are we even considering anybody else in those spots if we don't consider at least him first?
Facts.
That's what this is about. So I know you say, Jeff, you pushing it. No, I'm not. I think that
pushing it.
I think we both have had enough discussions from the backyard, grandbaby planting stuff, talking. We've had enough conversations for you to know where I'm coming from.
Right.
And while you know him, some of y'all still want to know if I'm with him. So let me be clear. Make no mistake about it. I support and endorse Kenyatta Stewart for 35th General Assembly in the state of New Jersey on June 10th, 2025. You get two choices, and that's okay. But the first choice should be Kenyatta Stewart. Now, let me also speak to the change in the demographics of this city. I've seen and witnessed folks of multiple persuasions talk first about Kenyatta as a great guy. But I also know politics is politics. And when people go in closed spaces, they do things, which is why it's important that your commitment and whom you share this video with and these conversations with, that you keep urging them, remember June 10th. So that's our theme. Remember June 10th. Remember June 10th. Remember June 10th, Kenyatta Stewart. If we just do that, we've done a whole lot.
And let me
Go ahead.
let me break it up a little bit though. What shocks me is how the powers to be,
What powers to be? We give them power. Okay, I'm sorry.
the folks with the titles,
Okay,
right?
okay,
They
I'm
say, oh well, this race votes this way, and this race votes that way, and this and this and this and that. And they want to speak on behalf of their community, right? They always say that, right?
Right.
On behalf of my community, right? I think that's like crazy because it's like that.
As pastors say, take your time.
That is so much of a disrespectful comment that you speak on behalf of your community, despite the fact that they may have had a separate experience. Right? Like, it's not as if, like, when somebody comes to my office and they knock on the door and they say, hey, I have an issue. Because, the law don't care about what.
It don't care.
Come on now. So when they come in, they don't say, hey,
Right.
you only do it for your community? No, man. You know how many people are represented from different communities with same issues? So, disregard that stuff, man, and you're going to be surprised on June 10th. And then the other thing is, the days of using race to win or lose or to criticize someone is gone. No matter what you say, the people in this community recognize and appreciate what the problems are, and they recognize and appreciate who they believe can help them with it.
And so I'm ready to jump in on this thing full-footed because experience has demonstrated and shown me that race does matter to some.
To some, okay.
Okay, and I said it like that. I was being facetious. Race does matter. It matters that folks want to know that somebody speaks the language they speak to and can relate to the conditions that they came about. And I get that. I mean, I respect that. But I've also witnessed, having served in the United States Marine Corps, race didn't matter if a bullet was coming and we was ducking.
That's right.
So when these actors, leadership actors, portray that the selection and the next steps are predicated on whether the Rainbow Coalition likes the hue you bring, we got to start saying, not saying, demonstrating. No more saying. We got to demonstrate, well, frankly, we don't give a damn. It is important that we pick skill and ability over your likes and your dislikes. So he can't say nothing about it, and I don't want him to say anything, but I can. I was a Democrat since I recalled consciousness, my parents, straight up from the South.
That's right.
I lost my interest in having the title Democrat because I saw inconsistencies. And they really didn't care which race you were. If the system felt it was to its benefit, then it didn't matter how we suffer. And I'm saying, when they say the lie and you believe the lie, who's the fool? Especially when you have the ability to go and research and ask questions. So here's what I want to do, because I know you have another appointment, and I think we've hit a lot of things. I want to know about the campaign trail.
Sure.
I want to talk about what you've heard and your interactions with people, because I think that's important for the public to understand.
Definitely.
What have you heard? What are you hearing?
So,
Likes and dislikes.
of course.
Okay.
So, first of all, I just make it clear that I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
Through and through. Recognize and appreciate that, some folks will try to twist it up a little bit because you're not on the Democratic Party's ticket. That you're not Democrat. I'm more Democrat than most of them people. Yes, be clear.
And
about
I
that.
know this.
Okay,
Right.
but
You didn't know this, and that's why we're having this
That's
discussion.
right, that's right.
Because if a system can just say you're running or you've been selected, and just because they said they're selected, even if they never had a history working through the process, we, the general public, don't realize that they just usurped our support system, our belief system. And so accountability with us is about, let me look at what you are, what you bring first, and then I'll consider those other things secondarily and tertiary. I can't just keep doing this Democrat, Republican, because when it's all said and done, there are folks who've done something from the other side of the aisle that is just as good as folks on this side of the aisle have done for me. And we've got to start winning rather than keep losing. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah. So originally, originally I was just campaigning for Ras Baraka, running for governor. And that's a prime example, right? This brother is double degree, educator, principal, poet, ran the largest city, 92, you appreciate this, $92 million deficit, flipped it around.
Listen, $75 million, $76 million. Yeah, I can appreciate it.
Added to the police department like no other.
And
Development
let's give some background. A city that has an airport, a dock, and all this other stuff. You talk about a city that rivals some countries.
Yes.
In terms of its dimensions.
Yes.
And yet, when this recent issue at Newark Airport happened with the airline, the clever folks tried to make it look like the mayor had any responsibility for it, which I was insulted by, I still am. But that's also politics. And we've got to get better at politics and understanding they're not doing anything for our best interest. So go ahead.
Yeah, so originally we were knocking on doors, Ras Baraka for governor. And listen, I'm gonna tell you that every single time I'm out, people know me. If I have a Ras Baraka sign or piece of literature, I also have a Kenyatta Stewart piece of literature, right? So
I got you.
Wherever I'm at, I'm giving out both at the same time. But the energy is there. People are excited because they know what the change has been
Right.
for Newark, right? So and then
And New Jersey.
of course, and then things change, and then how it went. Benji went up. Sis Shavonda said she was going to retire, and then now we got 2 spaces. They put somebody else there. I said, wait a minute, it's 2 spaces. You know what? I've been in the background. I'm gonna jump in. People excited. Listen, you were at the announcement.
You working me up because that's exactly my concern. That's exactly my concern. That out of nowhere,
Right. So,
Like out of nowhere, two puppies showed up on the porch. What?
so we had the announcement and people super excited.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, you know what, Kenyatta, don't make it just a party.
Right. Got it.
Get to it. Continue to go at it. Because, we've been knocking on doors. I was knocking on doors for Raspberry Rocket when it was cold outside. So now we had to double back in those areas, knock on doors. Kenyatta, we know already. We know that you out here for Raz. Oh, but now I'm out here for me too.
Got it.
Whoa, wait a minute. It's a whole different situation. So now we're doubling down on that. And then I'm going to tell you, the politics jumped in. Right? Some of the folks who, was down with you 100%, they got that pressure.
Yeah.
And then when the pressure starts, folks start to move around willing.
Well, let's stop for a moment. Let's make sure I want to make sure the audience understands what we're talking about. We're talking about once a young man who just expressed and hopefully articulated as well as anybody could why he has a desire to serve. Mm-hmm. That his opportunities, if he didn't believe in himself and others believe in and support him based on his work ethic and his commitment, that someone in the wide, misty circle of life can decide whether or not he can be our global representative or their choice. Mm-hmm. It's that simple, their choice. And so if we allow that to continue, then we don't have choices. And so what he just, spoke about was there were folks who, and I've heard it, there were folks who were okay with, Ras Baraka for governor, maybe a little timid about it. But if and when they found out, oh, wait, you going, the dynamic changed. Well, of course, now the system is like, hold up.
You're going too far.
Hold up.
You're going too far.
And so no matter how you look at it, the conversation, the issue remains the same. Somebody else is thinking for us, planning for us, manipulating all us and we keep sitting back and letting it happen. And when you start talking about living in the city, the next logical step for representative and legislative change isn't your county government. It's your state government.
That's right.
The lie and the pseudo is that it's county government. It isn't. It's state government. Because the laws start from the state and work its way down.
That's facts.
You cannot supersede state law. Not that you can't supersede county law, but there's no such thing. So this myth, this lack of understanding that we have is only being further extended because it benefits some folk. The benefit for we the folk has to be in who we select. Anything other than that is a lie. So yes, I've heard people were pulled on the carpet and told that you can't because of this. And it's like, none of them people pay my tax bills. None of those people fix my car when it's broken.
Right, that's right.
None of those folks take care of my doctor's bill, but you want to tell me who my politics should be. And that is the challenge.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish.
So at one point, I'm gonna tell you, it's a little discouraging, right? Because you're like, whoa, this my peoples. Like, we've been hanging together. You call me sis, you call me bro, all this other craziness, right? And now people put pressure on you. But then I sat down.
Right.
And I said, you know what, man? You've done more for those people than the people who are telling them not to.
I agree.
So and remember we said about that community, their people will say, you know what, man, but that's the guy, and that's what started happening. I'm going to churches, they're like, whoa, this person is not full-fledged, even though you did. And I'm like, oh, no, that's I'm gonna keep pushing. Then you have, other people coming up to you, I just saw you at the thing with the person. Right. I'm like, a little pressure, man, but listen, we're gonna pray for them. Right? I try to make it positive. But then eventually you start getting that energy and you start to learn and appreciate that the people don't care about the bosses. People are pulling up on me, blowing the horn. I'm with you. One day I was downtown, I thought the ladies were gonna hit me. She pulled up on me and said, we got you at my house. Young kid. Yesterday I was walking out of the Benji's barbershop.
I'm getting tingly over here because I want to say names, but I'm not going to say names. No, I'm not going to say names, but I want to say names. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm jumping in because I got calls And people would tell me on the golf course and other places, yo, what's up with so forth and so
Right,
on.
right.
And I was going, I heard. And I said, but I saw this
Right.
young man be a bigger person, both
question.
politically
That's right.
and other, standing next to people, supporting them. But I'm going,
But remember,
That's
though,
all
right?
I'm saying.
But remember the rule, though, right? See, I can't stop being Kenyatta because you change your style.
true that.
Right? I can't, right?
So that's like putting a Mercedes-Benz emblem on the Volkswagen.
Right.
No, I got you. I'm just gonna stick it on
Nah,
the on the
you can't, you know what I'm
Volkswagen. Ain't
saying?
nobody gonna know.
Right,
Okay,
right, you
I
know?
got you.
So but the people continue to start pushing,
right.
And then before you know it, folks who are traditionally are surrounded around some of those other folks are now like, oh no. Later for that, we still doing this.
So okay, and so again, I'm looking for your time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was engaging. I wanted folks to see you on the real, and I know many of you already know.
Right.
But there's a lot of you who were like, so what's up? And I wanted to make sure you had your moment.
That's right.
But in this opportunity, there are a few things that have to be real crystal clear. And many of us are not students of politics. We're students of process.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to become a student of politics, then you have to appreciate and understand the puppetry.
Right.
You have to understand, appreciate that people flip and change sides
God
as
knows.
it benefits their agenda.
That's all.
We have
bro.
to understand that.
That's life.
But then, if we're going to appreciate those things, we also have to understand and appreciate what are my needs. And until we start making that list of the things I need and who can best serve that, then we are accepting the puppetry. And so this election is a pushback against puppetry. This election, local, state election,
That's right.
is a message to say, we big enough to make our own choices. Thank you very much. Now, if you want to put somebody in, and I personally have a problem when somebody gets a seat handed to them and they didn't demonstrate the ability to get there. I personally have it. And there's some folks, I can go through the list. There ain't no way you should have got that seat. You're not qualified if somebody had asked me. Of course, they didn't ask me. But we've gotten to the point where it happens, we don't say anything. So that's why we're at the point now where folks are saying, well, this is who it's going to be. And we're now saying, not on this watch.
But let me tell you something, Jack. You said the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
The bad turned into the criticisms about things that I thought didn't matter to folks.
Gotcha.
So people started pulling my coattail. Hey, listen, man, don't be around this person. They don't have your best interests at heart. Or, hey, Kenyatta, you being too hard about what's going on. I'm just being Kenyatta, right?
Right.
And then somebody tucked me one day and said, you want to be an assemblyman. I said, okay. That means you have to assemble. That means you have to, you are applying for a job
That's right.
that you're going to have the ability to unify
Right.
all these different parts that you're seeing. And God is just putting them in your face right now. So the young and the old, that gap, you're in between the gap. This community versus that community, you're in that gap. You know, the folks who have a little bit of money and the folks that have no money, you're in between that gap. So at that point,
I got you.
I learned to appreciate the fact that this is good. It's good that I am here in the middle of this intersection where you have the traditional people talking about,
I
hey,
agree.
listen, this is the way we see it. And then the people, the community people saying, no, we still have to decide. And now on June 10th, we have an opportunity to say, we are going to decide this thing.
So there's something you said, the way you described it, that just made me I just have to say this. So, and I didn't think of it in that context until you said it, the assembly and assembling folks. But
That's right.
that's three-tier chess too, because it's not enough for us to have assembly representatives go down there to Trenton and sit. They've got to be there and help assemble other assembly people on the issues that are relevant to us.
That's right.
So we don't need a person who's been appointed and selected to go to Trenton, sit around, and only voice what they're being told, rather than go there and advocate for us, supporting other conditions to bring us the bacon.
That's right.
If you eat pork. If you don't eat pork, you know what I'm saying. So the other thing that the assembly statement you made, or the position, the image you presented is really quite, I think, it's interesting. So we spent a lot of time in this city making the city council, school board, council at large, and mayor's race the end-all be-all.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time. We got folks killing each other for it.
Unfortunately.
And they get there, and many tend to prove that they don't deserve to be there if we look at it strictly from a skill-based construct, my opinion. And that's okay. That's the nature of the beast. But we get a chance to elevate. We get a chance to, each time our children go and get promoted to the next level, demonstrate that their skill sets have been improved, that their knowledge base has been improved. That's what, and I'm not talking, that's not a freeholder condition. We talk about the state, the really truly recognized posture where every county can be affected or disaffected by the vote, the conversation, and the position. So we don't have time, as the joke used to say, putting amateurs in there. we don't. We can't afford to put amateurs or people trying to learn how to assemble folks or want to assemble certain folks. We've got to get someone, select someone, support someone who already understands what assemblage is about and what networking is about.
That's right.
And about what sacrifice and gives to get is about. There's no greater time than now.
Well, let me tell you something, right? So my legal experience, in the newspapers and everything else, I always tell people, criminal cases get you make you popular. You get in the newspaper for that stuff, right? But I represented different school districts. I represented different municipalities. I represented housing authorities. Of course, where I am now in Newark, there's a wealth of knowledge that you get out of the day to day when it comes to Newark. But the other thing is,
but tell people what your title is, just so they understand.
Oh no. So it's the Corporation Counsel, right?
What does that mean?
It's a fancy way of saying you're the head lawyer.
You're the lead lawyer.
The lead lawyer.
You're the legal genius for the city of Newark and all their cases. I love it. I mean, we got to say it. Right. I mean, because the transition from here to assembly is you'd be the lead for us.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, let's put it like it is. I ain't blowing smoke. It ain't like you sit there and you're one of. Right. You are the.
No. Yeah, there's more than 30 lawyers.
Yeah, call it. Call it. Claim it.
There's more than 30 lawyers in my office. Okay.
And they say boss.
Well, I don't let them talk to me like that.
No, but you sign their check.
Well.
All right, so you don't have to. I mean,
the mayor signs their check.
Okay, you're right.
Right.
I got excited.
But
I got excited.
But I run the office, right? Let's be clear.
He being humble, and that's okay. We want some humility, but he's corporation counsel, just like I appointed the lead attorney for the city.
That's right.
He was appointed as the lead attorney for the city of Newark, and this is what year is that for you now?
I'm on my 9th year.
So it's not like he just happened to find the job.
Yeah,
it was he does the job.
Yeah, I think about 8th, almost 9th year. But I'm gonna tell you
that's all I'm saying.
But the other thing is this though, right? When I look back at who has held the position before, Shavonda Sumter, Now listen, since your campaign, we've been down together. Our frat brother Kenny, is through and through. But that's somebody who I look to for answers. That's somebody who comes to me, who have come to me in the past, and we've shared experiences. She get advice from me. I give her advice. When things are moving one way or another, we find ways to support each other.
Right.
Benji Wimberly, the same thing, right? I mean, fortunate enough, known him before your election, but you got to think about it. Back then, when it was Jeff's campaign and Benji's campaign, I was in both. Right.
Because we were running almost in tandem. Right.
Exactly,
Correct.
Right? So, but again, right, someone who I've always gone to, and vice versa, right? I looked out for his sons, and he's always looked out for me. Then you go a little further. Right? Nellie Poe. Now, my relationship with Nellie isn't as close as
Congresswoman Nellie Poe.
Let's be clear about that.
Right.
You know what? You got that. Put some respect on her name.
I'm just saying.
That's right. You got that.
I'm just saying. I mean, Assemblyman,
right.
Kenyatta Stewart,
right.
Congresswoman Nellie Poe. I'm okay with it.
And you know what? I'm 100% clear about our Congresswoman and I have a good relationship. Of course, I grew up in the legal field, and her husband was also a judge, right? So I've appeared before him for years,
Got it.
And then you think about it, Elise Evans, who, former Assemblywoman Elise Evans, who, again, someone who I can call and, have called me about issues when it comes to the community and the greater good. Reverend Steele.
Got it. Assemblyman. Former Assemblyman.
Right, former Assemblyman Reverend Steele. The same situation. So my point is, I'm not walking in
Right.
like anybody else. I'm walking in prepared. I'm walking in with relationships. I'm walking in as the son of this community. And I am clear about one thing. I'm clear that the only way I'm going to get there is when this community comes together and votes me in. And I'm also clear about the second thing, which is when I get to Trenton, I'm only going there with one thing in mind, the community.
I mean, he stole my closing, but there's nothing more fitting than us to end on the understanding that it's one thing to be selected out of whatever atmosphere and told you're going to be the candidate. It's another thing to have a track record of working with folks who've been in Trenton over the decades and have been a part of some of the decision making, some of the research, whatever the case is. So we're not talking about an overnight sensation. We're talking about some value add and some creativity and some longevity. Friends, I can't say enough. I hope you've had some experiential learning in this. You see Kenyatta in front of you. Yeah, he is that young man that your children in basketball, football, cheerleading, whatever the case is, could be that child next to you.
That's right.
And it takes us to water, nurture, support, but also to re-support when he demonstrates he sees the next step. I'm asking you, do the right thing. And it's on June 10th. I'm also asking you, starting today, take this video, share it, reshare it.
That's right.
Reshare it. Let's make this happen. Let's prove and demonstrate it happens because we choose and not because someone else chose. I want to thank you. I know you got somewhere to go and something to do, and I don't want to stop you.
The campaign trail is serious, brother.
And if you need me to bring him back for something else, you do that. We'll try to make it work.
Oh, and guess what?
Go ahead.
And if you can't get a hold of Jeff before that, call me at 973-698
Boom!
5395.
Boom,
Again,
boom.
973-698-5395. Text me, call me, DM me. It don't even matter. We can find a way to get in contact with each other.
Where's the headquarters at? What's the address?
So we have 243 Broadway.
243 Broadway.
That's in Patterson.
In Patterson.
We have 352 Lanza Avenue in Garfield.
In Garfield.
And then we also have the spot. I don't know the address because we just opened it up.
Well, we're going to find out. So when you call,
right,
we're going to give you that address.
But no, listen, the Health spot is right next to Culture. So if you go to Culture to eat your food, it'll be right next to Culture, right across the street from Burger King. So we have 3 locations, a bunch of people that are involved. We have Super Saturday coming up this Saturday where, we'll be out in the community. Last week, we about 25, 30 people out knocking on doors, having a good time, but also, speaking to people. And then, of course, Sunday, we have a special Sunday where we're going to have, Family Fun Day at, the Hinchcliffe Stadium. So, again, reach out to Jeff, reach out to me. We'll see you out there. Appreciate you guys.
I appreciate the time, the effort, and I appreciate you welcoming such a noble young man and a man with such promise. But now the task has been placed on all of us. It's time to do something. I look forward to hearing from you, seeing you. Let's get on the campaign trail. June 10th, 2025, Kenyatta Stewart, New Jersey General Assembly. Peace.